This is the Map Scout Challenge brought to you by OnX, where we examine the map, assess features like terrain, habitat, and access, then go out and rip it apart in person.
And right now we're going to show you the results, no holds barred, so that next time you go to public land, you have the confidence to scout, hunt, and kill whatever you're after.
Seriously just happened.
We just made the long haul up from the Buckeye State to the Mitt. I think we're about right here somewhere, but we are in Michigan, and Michigan has this big reputation, especially from the ganders. The residents of Michigan really think that Michigan is one of the hardest states in the country to hunt. And I don't know if that's the case or not, but we're here to test that out, at least scouting wise. We are at a state rec area here that has a ton of water and a ton of habitat. I mean, it's an awesome place. It's beautiful here. So I'm excited to get out and kind of tear it up a little bit. Michigan has a ton of public land in general, so there's a lot of opportunity. But here on this particular property, one of the things we're going to be looking for that you hear a lot from the North Country is buck marsh bedding. All right, or marsh bedding and buck intensive marsh bedding. So we're going to be walking around out in this wet stuff trying to find these little bedding islands and places that bucks might be hanging out and sneaking around.
Yeah, there's a ton of hunters in this area, this state that is, and so in the rut you're going to get a very big heavy push of hunters in the woods during November a lot. So I think one of the keys to maybe killing a buck here is hunting in October, pre-rut stuff. So we're looking at scrapes is another thing we're going to be looking for in the woods, and also we're going to be looking for white oak acorn.
Mr. Ultimate Upland.
I mean, here's the thing. Get in a place like this, Michigan, we're talking rough grouse hunting.
Yeah.
You guys up here scouting for whitetail, that's fine. That's fine.
It's good.
But I want to see where the rough grouse are going to be this fall, so I'm going to be looking for cuts. See if there's any active cuts. We're going to turn that layer on. I'm also going to be thinking, because of this map behind us, I'm going to be thinking it's going to be marshy, good place for woodcock this fall on the migration. There actually might be some woodcock up here, so hoping to catch some of those on camera today. That'd be really cool, but that's all I'm going to be looking for.
Okay, well, you know, this map behind us has quite a bit of detail for our old wooden map, but I think we need a few extra layers, so we're going to hop on the OnX and we're going to see what we can figure out.
So we just drove up here from the headquarters and got some cell phone service. So I'm going to download a map while we're here, position this thing to, and that's pretty much the area we're going to stay in right there. Use cellular data. Okay, I'm downloading a map now. Did you find a spot already that you like?
I've been looking a little bit up here, kind of northwest of where we're at.
I like that area too.
We started talking about marsh bedding, you know, and when I look, so I'm looking at a little spot I'll send you here in just a second. There's a 2-track right here that I'm looking at, and I think if you zoom in, I think you can see where you can actually turn in there. And if the 2-track is accurate, we can go down here to the end of this 2-track and mark a line distance to this next island out here that I want to take a look at possibly. But if you look, you zoom in, these islands are connected by trails. Casey and I have looked at a lot of stuff like that in the past, different applications, but I would assume with as many trails as there are coming from multiple different islands in different directions that it's deer, not just a human coming in off the end of that 2-track. So I'm going to mark a little spot on that island, but I'm going to also look at the line distance here real quick just to make sure we're not walking, because this is a big property and I don't want to be looking at a place thinking it's 400 yards and it's actually a mile and a half, you know what I mean? So that's 530 yards from the end of that 2-track. So if the 2-track goes down, or if the road goes down to the end of that where it shows, then, you know, we'll be good to go. Shouldn't be too far of a walk. If it doesn't go that far, we may try to find something else, but there's plenty of islands around.
There's a lot of islands up there. I'm marking one that has good trails going to it too right now. So that island thing is going to be a good idea, but we also talked about finding scrapes and white oaks. So I think I'm going to look for a spot here in just a second that is going to be kind of more of a, you know, wooded type area, and I bet there's going to be different varieties of white oaks and stuff, but like some of the stuff that backs up to private is going to have a little bit of that agriculture influence, you know, especially like look up there to the north on that, there's a bunch of corn there from 2020, so that's probably beans right there. And I know that pressure is an issue here, so close to the road's kind of risky, but at the same time how many people are going to go in here and jump off in a place that's right next to the road, knowing that they can go deep dive, you know, or drive the road into the property a little bit or something. You know what I mean? So like that stuff right there next to the ag, that'd be really easy for us to hop in there and spend 20 minutes and just cover it.
All
you
about
know,
it.
Look around, see what we can find there. I'm just going to add just a regular waypoint right there. I've seen the one you just sent me. Add a waypoint there. Save. Okay. And that's probably going to be beans right there above it. Now, there is other stuff that we probably can look around at in here. I see that they've planted some stuff, looks like, on some of the WMA. But I think, for the most part, oh, like, look, that was all beans last year, and that's on the wildlife area. One of the things in Michigan, though, is that beans are just for scouting. You can't hunt them when hunting season comes along. So it's just for finding animals. Now, that was beans last year, so it's corn this year, which means it actually might be good in November. So there's a thing to take away from that. That's probably some really good habitat out here in the middle of the marsh that's still got a lot of trees on it. I'm going to put a pin just in that general area, but I think that between those that we just found,
We got some starting points for sure, man. So,
let's get Brain to drive us there.
right.
Oh, you just made it.
Let's did we just get into a harvest nest? What's going on?
I don't know. I'm not getting
Those
it.
bees?
I think they're deer flies. Yeah, we're fixing to get eaten alive by deer flies and every other bug that exists in a marsh. But there is a mushroom that could be a hen. Is that a hen?
That's a jack-o'-lantern.
It's gonna be on a
Let me
stump.
see.
That could be a hen.
That's a giant jack, I think.
So we're actually, we pulled into this first spot, and as I feared, it's just a pull in and turn around. There's not a, I mean, we could walk down that road pretty easy, but it's still gonna be like 1,000 yards of walking probably. So
We should.
it's kind of up to you guys.
We're here to scout, man. I know it's gonna stink.
But I mean, if you got a better island, closer island, whatever, you know, it don't matter to me.
I think that the fact that this one has a 2-track that goes a ways back in there is better than
Walking through the marsh.
Walk them
1,000 yards.
200 yards.
Yeah.
And most of the time on that 2-track, we're going to be in shade, so it's just like right there to your island.
Okay.
You know? And I don't know, we might get out there and this cattail stuff be a rager.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to get to anyways, but I mean, there's some islands that are close right there, but I feel like to get to like a true bedding island, seclusion is part of that, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
an island close to the road doesn't make a lot of sense. Those are going to bite real bad.
But maybe we get away from.
Speed kills right here,
There
bro.
is no getting away from.
Marsh bedding in the summer, guys. Don't do it.
Running.
Don't do it.
We're gonna run in there.
We gotta try.
Run.
We gotta try it, y'all. We
gonna
might
put-
only make it 50 yards and turn around because of the
Yeah, let's
flies
give it a
come
try.
in.
I'm gonna put my tinnies on.
You know when they swarm the truck, they know what's in here.
Good trail walking right out here. Point to point. That's how these deer walk, I think, on habitat lines. You see it in not just marshes, but in open fields and stuff. Anywhere there's, you know, essentially like a timber island or whatever. You see these deer walking point to point, closest distance in between cover a lot
Straight
of times.
lines.
Yeah,
These kids aren't as bad out here.
that's good.
Is this gonna do you in?
Swamp wide open. There.
Something's in my boot.
Boots. Snooty.
Got a hole in there?
No, I think it crawled down from the top.
Crawled down.
Oh boy. Deer track. In the mud. Okay, so we are at the tiny island before the big marsh crossing. We've seen a little bit of deer sign. There's tracks coming in here on the main trail. 3 big white oaks right above us right here. And this is definitely a deer bed right there. You can see hair in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark that as a bed.
There's also some, if you look close enough, there are some trails that skirt this island completely.
I saw that.
So, you know, but they all do join up pretty good and go to that next island, so that's kind of comforting.
One of the good things about hunting a place that has pressure is that the
old adage of the bucks are further back in, it usually kind of holds up.
Yeah.
So like, that's really easy access up there, and we're gonna walk further than a half mile. And most guys don't want to do that. So if you can do that and get out there to an island that's 3/4 of a mile or a mile out, there's a good chance that's where you're gonna find the bucks. So I mean, that could be that skirting path you're talking about with this right out there to those islands. So I don't know, this is cool, man.
I think it's awesome, dude.
Especially after we got all those nasty mosquitoes up
Yeah,
there.
it's not half as bad here, for sure.
That's a bed for sure. Oh, 1000%. Single by itself, that's a buck, bro.
So, as you can see, there's a bed right here. We just kind of really spread out and started walking through some thicker stuff. And there is definitely a bed there. There are all these green plants. I don't even know what these are for sure. We need to look those up later, but they're smashed down. Something's been laying there, tracks in there. It's weird. I don't know if this is a northern deer thing. We haven't seen a whole lot of hair in beds, but we see that back home down in the south quite a bit this time of year. Deer shedding some hair in the bed. So maybe it's just not a habitual bed. Maybe it's just something that's been used once or twice. Bigger deer, I mean, they can smash that stuff down pretty easy, but something to mark. KC, I think, is marking it right there.
I'm marking it right here.
A lot of times what we'll do is we find these different beds or rubs or scrapes or whatever kind of in and out of these places, and we'll just kind of drop pins and mark along the way. And then when you get back and you start looking at your maps at night when you're laying in bed, you start going, oh, I can see the pattern now, and you put these patterns together when you look at the big map. So that's kind of how we treat this a lot of times.
Man, that's a good bed.
It's a good one.
It's kind of round, so it means the deer's probably just moving around a
That's
little
what
bit.
I was saying too. Yeah.
But it's just beat down. I think this could be a scrape tree. We got two trails coming in right here. Big major trail there. We just found that bed over there. So our theory holds up. We think it's a buck bed. It's by itself. What we're gonna do now is head out to this alder island. It's a little bit smaller island than these big oak islands, and see what we find out there. There's a ton of trails leading to it as well on the map, and it'll give us a break from the mosquitoes again.
You know, obviously not something I'm gonna do anytime soon, but
we just walked through the swamp. We're kind of skirting the island here to head out to this alder island, and I saw a hole kind of in the weeds, and I looked over, and sure enough, there's a bed right here on a piece of high ground at the base of this swamp white oak here, and there's hair in the bed and everything kind of by itself, and it's a spot where a deer can even see back to danger, which would be the road, and see anything coming, bound off that way, and they're gone into the swamp if they see or hear any hunters or I guess anything else that would be disturbing them. So I think this is a really cool bed, and one that really reminds me of buck bedding for sure. Like I think no question that you could hunt this as a buck bed and maybe shoot a deer.
yeah, another couple things that I noticed are the hair means it's obviously being used right now, which makes sense because right here in the swamp, sun, Casey said this earlier because he worked down on the coast in Texas, sun and wind are the enemies of mosquitoes, right? And we got sun and wind here because we're right on the edge of this island, really getting a good breeze coming from this direction, right? And I imagine that's a prevalent wind that he's getting right here that's keeping a lot of the bugs down. Also got some browse right here, and like he said earlier, you can see things but can hear things also moving out in this swamp. So let's move on before the mosquitoes carry us off.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a picture of it because that's just, honestly, that's like cool just for me as a hunter outside of this video, just to see it play out that way. You know what I mean? To see they really do that up here. Exit trail back through there. See that little hole? Out of here, for real. Let's get out of here. Buck bed.
Found buck beds on it. I know we're gonna head out there to Mosquito Island. So obviously came upon a stand here, and it's right on the point, which I was just thinking, like, this might be a good spot to hunt. Obviously somebody else thought that too. I'm sure he sees deer go through here. He or she, I guess. But anyway, there is a little bit of hunter pressure around. That's just kind of Michigan, I think, though. But you might be able to outsmart them or outwork them on a property like this.
It just shows that it's a good spot. I mean, a good looking hunting spot, but everything that's a decent looking hunting spot on the map that you can pick out easy, it's gonna get pressure. Yeah. So I think it's important to go out there and find that stuff like an island we did that is tough to get to.
Also, in-season MRI is a good thing to think about too. Most recent info.
Yeah. Mosquito heaven. That was very productive. I like those beds and stuff we found out there. There's another one there that we're not going to go to. I mean, we also have this block of woods right up here. It actually looks really hard to get to. Maybe that's actually not something we can access, I don't think. I have that one marked right there. It's an easy hop in. Do you want to go to the easy hop in?
Yeah.
Let's go do that.
What kind of habitat are we looking at?
We're looking at bigger stands of timber with marsh behind it and beans across the road.
So, mosquito heaven.
Well, I don't know.
I know.
I didn't think they were as bad walking out as they were walking in a while ago.
There was a spot, but
yeah,
yeah, the whole thing I don't think was either. Let's go just check it out. Yeah, if we get eat up,
so be it.
We will find a different spot. Get out.
Access the public over here on this road, right over there.
Marsh. Elevation on that. It's pretty cool.
Avoiding that.
Raspberries, and they're tangy. They taste like candy.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, those are ripe too.
Those are so good.
Okay, deer. Pop them. Trails like this are real, but I think that the wear on the dirt is a little accentuated by just the heaviness of the deer. Oh, that's a good point too. But just they're bump, 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 getting down. I don't think it's quite as heavy as you think, but it's still plenty of deer coming down it.
Let's go eat some more berries and then go over there to the alfalfa. Look at you making a trail.
You ready?
Mosquitoes are going nuts.
All right, we're at the corner of a kind of secret, tiny public spot that backs up to alfalfa, and we're going to go in and hopefully do a little tactical drop. There's a big old hill right here on the other side of the county road that we think that the deer are bedding on, and there are good trails coming off of that, and we're thinking that there's going to probably be a good spot down here in the back corner of this alfalfa that they're going to enter in. It's a spot that you kind of pointed out to us.
I mean, I think this back corner of this field ought to be good, so if we don't see something we like there, we know we got two trails coming off this hill where deer are probably bedding and coming to alfalfa, so we're going to drop it here. We just have to figure out the right spot.
Skeeters are eaters right now.
I think we're over the ridge. Good trail right here.
Yeah, I see it. There's one coming out of the bottom down there.
Goes right there. This is a spot.
Do you want to get deer in the alfalfa, or do you want to get deer on the public property?
I think there's, if you put it where the farmer can see it, there's a good chance it gets stolen while he's cutting.
Just kind of back here pointing at these two trails right there.
That thing goes straight down there. I'll guarantee you the deer moving on this thing.
He's right here.
Isn't there another trail right there that you saw?
There's one exit right there. There's probably some right there.
Yeah. This is the highway, dude. This is it. And there's the tree.
That's the tree to put it on, you think?
Maybe. You probably could get both trails, huh? Or maybe that tree. Right there.
Still going back up in there.
And you got a for real trail going all the way back down there, and this one comes out in the corner.
I think that's probably the one.
That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. We got a really good trail coming into the alfalfa right here, and then one that skirts the back corner, the inside corner of the field, as a lot of guys like to refer to it as. And where they join up right here, I mean, it's beat down. They're coming in here for sure.
That's a for real deal right there.
That's the real deal. That's a good trail. I think there's a turkey feather There's a turkey feather right there, I believe.
There you go.
So, turkeys, deer, all coming in to eat this alfalfa. We're gonna hang it on this right here.
Old rub on the tree.
Yeah, and I think this is gonna be a great spot for us to pick up some deer.
All right, we tested this on the Moultrie mobile app and it looks bad to the bone. Framed up real good. Whole body of the deer is going to be in frame, as well as shooting down that secondary trail that goes down the hill. This huge highways right here leading into alfalfa. Cameras on public, trails on public. We can hunt in that tree on public. It's golden, all right? So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to mark this camera, trail camera, all right? I'm going to take a photo of this guy. Actually, I'm going to back up a little bit so we see what the surrounding stuff looks like. I'm gonna mark it purple just so it shows up real bright for our buddy. And then save. We have got a camera marked in the Michigan woods on 2 giant trails. There's gonna be a 190 on public in Michigan on this camera.
Let's go.
Let's dadgum go.
Go. KC always makes sure to tie up the tail on the strap, because you don't want that thing to blow around when a north front comes in and set off your camera a million times. So you gotta make sure it's good and tied down and out of the way on the backside of that tree. Oh yeah. So that's gonna wrap it up in the upper Midwest for us up here. We have lots of other Map Scout challenges in the series. It's a Map Scout challenge playlist here on YouTube, so go check that out. But before you do that, watch the rest of this, because we're going to the desk right now. We're gonna look at the desktop version of OnX, and we're gonna look at other spots that we think correlate well to the data we found off this camera and from scouting out here today. Let's go.
What is the hardest state in the United States of America to hunt whitetail in? Tyler?
I'm not sure.
We don't know either. Okay, I don't know either. But I can tell you this, Michigan is probably not it. Sorry guys, if you're from Michigan, I'll tell you this, I'm sure it's hard. Whitetail deer are hard to hunt, okay? But there's actually quite a few deer, at least in the area that we went to in Michigan.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it. You know, another thing is that these deer are pretty big animals, I think, up there, and big deer make good big sign.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We found a little bit of that, but I will tell you this, if you want to have a good hunt, it would probably be good to go up there and just try to hunt deer instead of trying to hunt big giant bucks all the time.
Yeah, another thing I learned about the deer up there is that they do like dry bedding.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Michigan's gonna have a lot of pressure. Oh yeah, you know, so there's gonna be lots of folks around hunting. You probably need to pick you out quite a few spots. That way you can find one that is unpressured whenever it comes hunting season.
That's right, and the pressure, I think the way to beat that is gonna be a little bit of creativity. So let's explore some of this stuff. The first thing that we went in and looked at were these islands, these Marsh Islands, right? They're surrounded by marsh, and then there's oaks on the islands. And we saw a lot of white oaks, and we saw a lot of beds. And that's kind of what we assumed was, you know, we had always heard about this buck bedding theory, right? And buck bedding is not something that we've seen in a whole lot of places that be a reliable thing to focus on. I don't know that it's even a reliable thing in Michigan to focus on, but I do think that bedding is something that you could focus on in these marsh habitats. And we did find some places where it was like, oh, this is definitely a place where a buck beds sometimes. So, but I do understand after going out there that there's really not many deer bedding in the marsh. They're bedding up on these islands.
They can't bed on that wet floating mat.
Yeah.
It was crazy. You could jump up and down like a trampoline on this mat of grass. It was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not going to spend time just out there, right? They're going to be in certain places.
Yeah.
And what that does is it concentrates deer. So maybe there's not a ton of deer per acre, per square mile, whatever you want to measure it as, but they will be concentrated because they can't spend a lot of time out there in that marshy stuff. So there still is, you know, quite a few deer to hunt.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we saw a little bit of hunter pressure on those islands as we went through, but there really wasn't a ton. I think if you get far enough out on those islands, you know, where it's a pretty good walk from a trailhead or a road, I think you're going to see that, you know, there's not a ton of people. And if you hunt the right day of the week or the right time of the year, that you're going to find that, you know, being creative in those aspects, as well as even access, which is something we saw when we hung our trail cameras, that being creative with a close to the road spot that kind of just set up correctly. I mean, the first night we got a big buck on camera.
Oh yeah, dude, it is cool.
Yeah.
You want a high five right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Woo! I love it, man. Big bucks in Michigan, all right? I was going to say the exact same thing about hunting the right day. If at all possible, hunt, you know, a day that's not a weekend day, because that is going to really open up some spots for you that don't have quite as much pressure. And like I said earlier, I think that you need to have, you know, 10, 12, 15 spots you feel pretty good about on multiple wind directions. That way, whenever you do have to roll up on a Saturday and, you know, there's already a Tacoma parked at 7 of those places, or Subarus or whatever they drive. I think Michigan's Ford country.
Is it?
Probably F-150
yeah, Detroit,
step sides up there, you know. Anyways, you need to have a lot of places that you've either gone in and boot scouted, or at least, you know, cover this thing up with pins on your OnX map and just drop you a spot everywhere you think would be a pretty good, decent deer hunting spot. And who knows, you might find something new and cool that you've never been to on a blind hanging hunt.
Yeah. Another thing we noticed on the trail camera is like even these does look big. Like these are just big animals,
Big.
right? So the good thing about this is a very hard time of year to scout. We scouted this in, was it late June or early? No, mid-July.
Mid-July,
We
yeah.
scouted in mid-July, and that's a tough time of year. But luckily, with these big old, you know, animals that weigh several hundred pounds, they're putting a lot of sign out there. So it's I guess one of those things you can look forward to is when you go out there and are looking for deer, if there's deer around, they're going to be making some sign and giving you a good idea of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, I'm sure all stereotypes hold true to some extent, right? So Michigan has to have a lot of pressure and it has to be pretty difficult, right? So I think if you wanted to have a successful hunt in Michigan, you really need to kind of meter what you feel as success. Yeah, if you see a big giant buck, shoot that guy, right? But like, if you really want to feel good about your hunting chances in Michigan, go up there and hunt. And if you see a decent buck that you'd like to shoot, shoot that buck. You know, don't wait around forever, because that really might make it seem like it is pretty difficult to hunt there because there's so many people. There just might not be a healthy age structure of deer.
Yeah, for sure. So with all that in mind, let's go look at the maps and see if we can put some of that work into some map work that might pay off in the future for us. So we looked at a place called Waterloo Rec Area, or State Rec Area. It's several thousand acres, and it's got a lot of varied habitat. So we're gonna look at a few things here, talk about some of the things we found. Casey, can you start us out showing where we put the trail camera, or where we started, I guess, and then where we put the trail camera and why?
So we ended up starting out, actually down here in Waterloo. We hung out at a lady's gas station for a while, but then from there, shortly thereafter, we went up here and did the marsh bedding thing because we've always heard about that. Got eaten alive by mosquitoes in here, but found some good stuff. I mean, I really think that you can go in there and find some bucks. However, for the purpose of getting decent trail camera footage and maybe multiple bucks, I don't think that that's like a trail camera spot. I think that you go in there and hunt that spot without cameras and just know that whatever buck you see is the buck that uses that island, or a couple of them or whatever. So we were kind of looking for a spot that might have more potential when it came to different deer running around, or more deer running around. So we actually ended up going down here, and we were looking all around at all these crops and all these different places, taking these roads through here. It actually took us a little while, but we found this little hidey hole right here, all right? This is a spot where you have a big marsh down here at the bottom, and there's some kind of taller hills. These are pretty big. There's also a ton of raspberries right here, just saying. Woo, they were good. But this field right here is in alfalfa, okay? And the deer were hammering it. There are trails coming off of this hill all down in here. So what we did is we got Brian to drop us off right there. We walked this edge in and went to this back corner and looked around. Didn't really like it perfectly, but just a little bit off of that, there was like 2 really good trails leading into this alfalfa field. So that's where we put the camera, and where we've been getting a lot of deer pictures sent back to us from that. That's a, you know, a Moultrie Delta cell cam right there that's sending us pictures right now, which is really, really cool.
Yeah,
and I think that legit, I would hunt this spot.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like that deer that we got on camera there gets me fired up, man.
He's like, he might be in shooting light. Like it's still kind of light outside when that picture's taken.
And I think something that we haven't been talking about much, and we probably should, is that, yeah, corn and beans are kind of a big deal in the Midwest, but apparently there's a lot of alfalfa around too. And a really neat thing about alfalfa is it doesn't get yellow like beans do and go bad, you know, before most hunting seasons. That's going to be good, you know, on into late October. I think you're still going to have alfalfa that you can hunt there. So it's still a hunting place
well into season.
I would imagine there's deer kind of going from the west to the east there too. That's off of the public, so there's no telling actually how many deer are using that little area right
Yeah,
there.
absolutely, man. There's good habitat and stuff around. Like, look at this stuff to the south. This is just, you know, oh man, there's going to be a lot of deer in there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So with those in mind, I kind of wanted to take, well, with everything in mind, you know, even the marsh bedding, I wanted to take a look at some different stuff and see where I might want to end up later on if I ever went back, or what would be, just challenge myself to find kind of a good spot. And I kind of zoomed in on this right here. This University of Michigan land, I don't know a whole lot about that, but there might be some Wolverines over there. But I was looking at this and I was thinking, man, I wonder, you know, what that ag is right there. But this is kind of cool because you've got this big open area here. I asked Casey, what do you think that is? Is that a marsh? And we kind of both assume that it's marshy. I don't know.
Well, you see that pool
exactly
down there on the
what I was
south
thinking.
end.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like that's probably things under here are pretty wet. And you can also see, if you look at this topo line right here, the trees follow that line right there. Whatever that elevation is, 850 or whatever, 880. Then that is where the trees start to grow and where the elevation starts to gain right there. So a couple of things I got in mind here. First of all, I went over to my map layers and I got into the crop data layers and I started clicking these on and off, and I figured out that this indeed is winter wheat, which is very interesting. I don't know that we saw a ton of winter wheat, but that is something that I know will last into super cold winter, and that deer will focus on when it gets cold. So, you know, in Michigan, that could be November when it's rutting. It could be really cold. Beans are dead. You know, corn's been out, whatever maybe. Just hypothetically speaking here, and you've got this wheat right here that deer might possibly really like to focus on. So a couple of other things I was thinking here as well is that basically if you look in between these two elevation lines right here, it's kind of starting to, it breaks up. The timber kind of breaks up in and out a little bit here. I'm thinking you're going to get a lot of sun, especially a lot of morning sun and midday sun right in here. You're going to get a lot of plants that are growing up in like a, almost like a, early successional type of growth. If you see this, trees can grow out to this elevation line, right? So things can grow out to here that are not necessarily marsh type plants, I would assume. So therefore, this could be a lot of like forbs of different types, whether it's goldenrod or ragweed or anything that they might browse on. So I'm thinking that deer back in here and this stuff could be browsing their way down to here. Also, we noticed that in the marshes, deer were spending more time in the middle of the day out in these marshes because the sun, KC made this point because he lived on the Texas coast, the sun and the wind is not a friend of mosquitoes. And I don't know if you actually said it like that, but I made a good little jingle out of it.
Pretty good at the limericks,
Yeah,
so that's probably a good thing I would say.
So these are areas that deer could definitely be like bedding right in here on the edge of these little islands or the edge of this timber, and getting a wind of some sort that keeps the mosquitoes at bay, maybe even some sunshine, because it's not super hot. As you can see, it's 78 degrees up there right now, and those deer can tolerate that, I think, and they were in that day. So my thoughts are this sets up well to give them cover in the fall, and also cover in the fall here too, but like also the wind and the sun that they need to keep mosquitoes at bay, and then food source here. So just kind of a thought that you may be able to kill a deer like right in here in November, and you're not too far off of a road right here to make it difficult on you. It'd be a fun place to go check out for sure.
So I went way less technical on my place that I was going to pick, and I said, where can I find more alfalfa? And I saved this coordinate, and I like the spot. So you can see right there, if you turn this to topo, you can see the alfalfa lay a little bit better. But right here, we got an alfalfa field. So I'm turn it back to hybrid right there.
A lot of times alfalfa is in and out, year in and out. It stays the same. So
it'll regrow. You don't have to replant it every year, So, and it's a real valuable hay crop. And this guy probably isn't going to be using this land very much because apparently there's a big power line that runs through there. There's a big marsh right here on the public, and it looks like there's a little trail right there. But if you can tell, like right here, what's the line distance on that? Let's see, is this the right one? Yeah, so right here, from that corner to this corner,
is 150-ish yards, okay? So that's not very wide at all. So you got kind of a pinch thing going on here between this marsh and this alfalfa, and then you've got some terrain somewhat, and then it's just kind of broken habitat in here. I really kind of like how there's ridges. It looks like there might even be some evergreen type trees in some of this stuff, and I feel like right here, although you're not close to a road, you're close to a trail, so if you want to take a bike in there or something, you can get there pretty quickly. And I think that you really could set up on a pretty good buck right in there using this food source that's also cruising kind of the backside of this small ridge. So I really like that spot.
Yeah, I actually looked at that. I remember seeing that power line.
I need to drop a pin.
Yeah, I like that a lot. But you know, and that area has a lot of edge, like you said, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different habitat types there for deer. So pretty cool. You know, one thing that you can do if you like this is we've got a playlist of all these Map Scout challenges. We'll link to that in the description below. Also, we'll link to our merch website. If you want one of these cool shirts, we would appreciate you buying that. That helps us to get up and down and do these Map Scout challenges all over the U.S. and hopefully bring you a little bit of insight into how we look at things, which maybe that gives you an idea of a different spin that you can use. Remember, this is your element.
Live in it.